Good morning, everyone. We'll continue here in KITZUR HILCHOS SHABBOS when the laws of Bairer, of separating, and the important little chapter today, Derech Bairer v'Derech Achila. The way of separating things, but there's also the way of Achila, of making the separation for the sake of eating. Gilu lanu Chazal Shirak Shabar v'Derech Malach, and Chazal have revealed to us that only when you separate in a way that's considered to be the malacha, the prohibited act, like the way they did it in the field or in the storehouses, yesh isur Torah shel bairer. There you have a prohibition of bairer. But if you would do this b'derech achila, you're doing it in a way that you want to eat, as we'll explain, ein kan isur bairer, there is no prohibition of bairer. There's three different ways that you could transgress the prohibition of bairer, and if you are doing it in a different way, then there won't be an isur, there won't be a prohibition, as he's going to explain. Aleph, number one, you take the bad from the good, meaning that which you don't want, you remove, and you leave the eichel, you leave the food, that which you do want, you leave it there. It doesn't matter whether or not you are going to use the good it doesn't matter whether or not you're going to use the bad things or leave the good for now or for after zman, for after a while. Once you remove the bad from the good, the whole thing is bairer. Bairer is the opposite way. You take the good from the bad, but you don't want to use it right now. So again, let's just take the example that we've been giving. You have the fruit salad, the apples, and the bananas. You don't want the bananas. So I take the apples, that's what I do want, and I put it on the side, but I'm not going to eat it for another hour. When there's a delay in the separation of when you're going to use it, that's also a problem of bairer. And Gimel number 3, when you take the food, that which is good, from the bad, even if you want to use it immediately, which means I take the apples and I want to use it for immediate consumption. However, but I used a utensil or some kind of a vessel, as we'll see what those are, to make the separation. I used the sieve, I used something like that. Even though that I'm going to take advantage of the eichel miyad, that's going to be a problem. Bidrachim elu yesh isur shechashva elu derech bairer. In these things that we are speaking about over here, yesh isur shechashva elu derech, where there is a prohibition that we call bairer. Avalim bairer eichel mitech psalis. But if you take the food from the psalis, the good from the bad, litzarech miyad, and you want to use it immediately, ubiyad, and you use your hand to make the separation, v'loi b'kli, you don't use a vessel or an instrument or a tool, le'nechshav derech bairer, that's not called bairer, ela derech achila, that's called eating, umutter gam lecharchila, and that would be permissible even lecharchila, 100%, there's nothing to worry about. So again, as long as you are taking the good from the bad, and your intention is to use it immediately, and you make the separation with your hand and not with a kli, not with a vessel, there's no problem of bairer. Nimsa, it comes out, she'ikar toili im beirusai hu derech bairer or derech achila. The way that we define whether or not you're transgressing or not is dependent on if you're really doing bairer, you're making a separation, or it's derech achila, it's the way that you are going to be able to eat or partake of this particular thing that you want. Chazal have given us the klalim, the general principles of how to judge this, like we just said. There are even cases when you're using a kli, you're using a utensil. It could still be considered derech achila. For example, a fork is a kli, is a utensil, but if that's the way that you end up eating with the fork, you don't use your hands, so then as we'll see later on, that could be something that would also be permitted. And sometimes even you can take that which you don't want from that which you do want, that could also be derech achila. For example, how are you going to eat an orange
if you don't remove the peel first. So you don't want the peel, you want the orange, you want the food that's on the inside. I'm removing the what I don't want from what I do want. That's also going to be mutter, that will be permissible, like we're going to explain later on. So again, as we will see, and as we mentioned before, Boirer is very comprehensive. It's going to include many, many different areas and details of our HILCHOS Shabbos. And once that we learn the general principles of how to do Boirer, we'll save ourselves from a lot of Chil Shabbos in our lives, Be'ezras Hashem. All the best.